everybody, and welcome to our new edition of the themes that we have started on our previous show with Coli and Regu. This time we meet Crista Valentino, straight from United States, completely different hour for all of three of us. Crista Valentino is the founder of Coalition Wild, and she's gonna tell us in just a few seconds what Coalition Wild is. But for the moment, just say hi, Crista.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We are also very happy to have you here. And Alec, the permanent partner in crime for Idea Shots. Alec, hi.
Hello, the permanent fixture. Here I am.
You are in Frankfurt now, yes?
I am indeed.
So, because last time he was in Bucharest, I don't know exactly where he is, so I always have to check his location. Okay, so Crista.
There will be a time when I will not answer to that.
Okay, you're gonna be in a virtual space, real space, not just virtual. Okay, so Crista, following the previous question that I already throw in the discussion, like what is Coalition Wild? Could you please give us a little bit of more details with your heart and soul and what it means to you and what it is all about for the public to understand where are we heading towards in our discussion?
Definitely. So Coalition Wild is a completely youth-developed and youth-run and youth-led organization, and we work globally with young people. And when I say youth and young people, I'm talking under 35 years old, to help them develop conservation projects in their communities. And really, our goal is to increase the capacity and leadership skills and confidence that young people have in order to develop the future that they want to be a part of. And so how do we support them in stepping into leadership positions, demanding the changes that they want to see, and also developing and implementing new, creative, innovative, but really effective projects that tackle challenges that they face every day.
And where are you operating at the moment? Only United States, or are there any other locations around the globe that you managed to touch and inspire?
Yeah, so I personally am currently based in the United States, but I suppose I could be based wherever my computer takes me. But we've been in over 140 countries. Currently in our 2 or 3 programs that we're currently running right now, we have over 70 countries represented. And so we're truly global, and that ranges from like big urban city centers in the global north to some of the most rural areas that you can imagine in the global south. And it really ranges. And so we're one of the main pillars or foundational elements of what we do is to ensure that accessibility is open to anyone who has the desire and the passion and vision to get involved.
So I'm pretty sure you're going to share a lot of very interesting things from your experience. I'm very much curious to see how you decode the meaning of climate change, because in this way we can introduce also our first theme, is that the climate change is a concept that is not new but not old either. So it's pretty under construction in our mind what it is climate change, how does it manifest, and how is that impacting our lives and our future in general. So our first theme is related to the way you guys, both of you, Alec and Crista, decode climate change. What this is for you? What's your personal definition and personal feeling about what climate change is all about today, and how is that impacting our lives in general? So who wants to start? Alec, just as an
Okay, just as an alternative to Crista. Hello. So climate change for me is scientific reality, a political battleground, daily experience, all these together. And for example, I'm trained as a scientist, so I tend to trust people who are like me, scientists. And there is a consensus in the scientific world that there is we're passing through a moment of change at the climate system of our planet. Now, the disputed part, the way I see it as a political dispute, is this change provoked by human beings, or is part of the, let's say, normal long-term historical cycle of the planet? And again, the scientists say, well, we kind of pushed a little bit the envelope here, and it's our own doing. At this moment, it becomes the political matter. If we did it, are there any things that we can undo, or how do we deal with it? And then it becomes the whole political thing that we're aware of. And then personally, climate change, well, it's my father likes to cultivate. He was an agriculturist all his life, and he has a garden where he puts different fruits and vegetables. And he's telling me that it's been many years that his tomatoes are boiling inside. They are not ripening anymore. They're just boiling inside. So that's that. I don't have any more juicy tomatoes from the garden of my father.
So it's really impacting.
Well,
your happiness in what concerns the food you are eating, you know?
the truth is, yes, that me being who I am, I love good food and good wine, and yeah, I kind of miss some tastes. Also because I'm getting old, and I think that everything was before was better. Of course, I'm getting that kind of old people. Yeah. We'll talk about age in another series of.
Yes. And Crista, what about you? I'm very curious the way you see things while living your job every day. You know, doing your job every day. How you see climate change? How you feel it? What it is to you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with how Alec started that. It's scientific, it's political, it's personal, it's policy. And when I think of what I consider climate change, it's literally the breakdown of those words, right? The climate, so the environment that we live within, the air we breathe, the temperature of the earth, you know, and that's going to be different. So when talking personal, where the individual stands in this moment in time, what surrounds them, and that it's changing. In some places that's warming, in some places that's cooling off, in some places sea levels are rising, and some they're dropping. Like, it's change, and it's change based from what we knew. And again, that know depends on when you start. Does that start of time of recording, you know, when we began that scientific discovery? Is it through verbal or oral sharing? Is it through our own witnessing of what's taking place around us? But to me, climate change is going to be different for every single different person, because we're all experiencing it. For me, it's a really personal interaction with the world around us, and trying to distill that down into scientific rhetoric or scientific journals or policy and politics takes away that human aspect of our interaction or our connection to what we've experienced and what we have experienced, are experiencing, and anticipate continuing to. So to me, in short, is literally the change of our climate.
Okay, and that leads me to the second theme that we want to open and debate on. If the climate really changes, or if this climate change that we are discussing is not just a story in our heads, and it's not actually real, but just some fluctuation of the temperature of the earth, and that the earth is recovering and nature is recovering. Nature will never die. We die as humans, but nature is gonna still be there and starting all over again and so on. And there are global political debates and business debates whether this matter or not eventually. What do you feel and think about that? In what way does it matter, and what are the changes that there are mandatory to make if this really matters?
I personally don't think that admitting climate change matters. I think that everything you just said, where we are having all of these debates, the idea of a debate, the idea that there's a for and against, that science and numbers can be manipulated and used for or against an argument, that you can Google a topic and find something that backs up your side, regardless if it's true or not, right? Like, we can do all of that. And so I think that we've gotten really stuck in this idea that we need people to admit, to use the word that the climate is changing, that there is climate change. And my question is does that matter? Does it matter if somebody says the words or signs on, right? Because we've become, like, I think that that's really driven by an egotistical agenda. That I need you to come to my side. But at the end of the day, if we start talking about what type of experience we want to have with the world around us, what type of future we want, and literally if that could be as easy as, do we want a future in which humans live? Do we want a future in which we could have juicy tomatoes that are grown from our garden? When we begin asking these questions of like, what do we want? Then it matters a lot less the words that we use, or the concept that we do or don't sign on to. It begins opening up this discussion of our human existence and where we actually relate to each other. And I also believe it takes us away from, like, climate change holds a connotation, I believe, of really dark and dire and negative. And that has mired the environmental sector for as long as I've been in it, about a decade, of this negative doom and gloom, that we're killing the planet, we're not going to be around, nature's going to survive, but look at all that we're doing, right? And that negativity, to me, creates a paralysis, this despair that leads us into, okay, then I can't do anything, or I don't want to do anything, or me just living creates a worse world. And so if we do actually want to move into a positive direction, a positive future, then it's not enough to just feel despair and paralysis, right? We need to act. And so what I'm getting at is, like, admitting or agreeing to climate change and using those words and being a part of the fight actually just disconnects us further from where we potentially want to go and having the discussion of what we want to have in that future.
And following this and still being the devil's advocate, I took this role just to stimulate the debate. I've seen some news exactly yesterday on TV, on our TV, that was saying that like a perspective of the future and what we can do with the nature in the future is that they were sending bottles of wine in the space to check how the age of the wine can be influenced by the fact that they are getting older in the space versus on the planet. And they were checking which one is better and so on. So there are solutions outside the planet. It seems like the future of the planet might be outside the planet. So how do you feel about that, Alec, about our theme, and also maybe about a little bit about wine? I know that you like wine, so.
Well, yes, I feel good about wine. Would I when I drink a wine that is aged in space, if there's no more availability from from the one on the earth, yes, I would do that, provided I will still be around. So I tend to agree with Crista, and I want to look at your question from a different perspective. What does it count in the if we admit climate change and we try to do something about it? In the long term, maybe it doesn't. I mean, if we think at historical eras, the Earth passed through several extinctions, I think 5. We are living through the 6th one. That's fine. It will not happen probably in our generation or in my daughter's generation, but we're definitely losing the species at the same speed that was recorded in the past 5 extinctions. So it's something that happened before. It's systemic. Now that's for like a very long term look at it. It doesn't really count. But if we look at our lifespan, as Crista said, it counts, because I like my tomatoes juicy. I like my wine to taste good and eventually made on earth. And I would not subscribe, because I'm already probably, age comes with a certain type of wisdom. I don't want to go to live on Mars with Elon Musk. So, so yes, and it counts in the sense that we are good we are very good innovators as a species, but we innovate, and it's proven we are good innovators under pressure. If we're not under pressure, we don't innovate. We like the status quo. So admitting there is a pressure, even if that pressure is real or not, but admitting that there is a pressure may push us to innovate in very interesting directions. And I kind of like that. I mean, yeah, I would not go to Mars, but I would eat, and I already did, and my diet is mostly vegetarian, and I would eat synthetic meat with no problem. So yeah, bring it on.
Okay. So we can do it. That's the conclusion, that with our brains we can do. We can live a much earth-friendly life, much more earth-friendly life. We don't have to go to space.
Yeah, with our collaboration. Collaboration is the word. It's not only brains. It's our hands, our bodies, everything.
Okay, so at least if we open the debate, the solutions are going to come as well through collaboration. And that leads us to the third theme that we have today, where I need a lot of help, because I don't know what it is all about. So you, Crista, need to clarify this. What is nature needs have? And why do we all should support NNH like 50%? Can you help with clarifications?
Yeah, so nature needs half is a concept that is calling for 50%, protecting 50% of our lands and waters by 2030. And so 50 by 30. And it's a call for a rally cry for the global community to not only adopt policies that do this, but also adopt practices. It's very similar. There's within a lot of the global environmental institutions, they're also pushing for 30 by 30, protecting 30% by 2030. And over the years, different targets have been set out. So with nature needs half, however, I see it as not just a policy, like a element of policy. I also don't see it as a necessarily a declaration that countries should sign into. It's it's more, you know, because I think when we think of those things, we consider traditional conservation, like fortress conservation, meaning we have to set up protected areas and national parks and OECMs and other effective conservation measures, like these areas where we're like, okay, this is nature, let's not touch it, let's put it aside. But nature needs half looks at more than just land and sea protection. It's asking for people to remember how nature is actually a part of us and half of us, right? We're to go a little deeper, we are made of all the same elements, right? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We're made of the same parts of nature. And also nature gives us the elements we need to survive: oxygen, juicy tomatoes, wine, etc. And it's been our disconnection with this other side of us, or other half of us, that has led us to where we are now. You know, you talk about, yeah, we can go into Mars and re-inhabit a different place up in the universe. But we're still going to have that disconnection if we don't recognize that this like life force around us is actually a part of us, and that we need it for our survival in whatever form or shape that ends up taking. And so nature needs half is not only calling for this idea of protection, but it's also calling for us to reconnect with nature, with this environment around us, with the species, the non-human elements that also share this spinning globe with us.
So it's about Alec comments with we need collaboration with everything that's around us, including not just among us humans, but with all the living creatures around us, whether it's vegetation or it's fauna or whatever it is living around us. We need collaboration in order to be able to charge for life eventually. Mm-hmm. Perspective where we are. We need a mothership to be able to charge us. Alec, how do you comment on this?
Yeah, Crista and I had a conversation about NNH, and she made me understand, because she said I like to poke till I get to the truth. That how is this different? For example, nature need half, with the fact that anyway, even in the cities that are mentally designed to keep nature away, there is such thing as nature, you know, from parks to any animals and every species that live in the city, including those that we kind of put in the books that say it's a wild species, they live in the cities. Coyotes love suburbs, for example. And so what Crista made clear there is that nature needs half is a change of mind, in the sense that we design our habitat to accommodate. Not we design it against, but the nature is resilient enough to work around our prohibitive designs. So that's a little bit, I think I resumed what Crista just said, but sorry, just to finish the idea, I think it's that shift between, as they called, egology to ecology, right? Putting the human in the center to putting life in the center, that life that extends to non-human stakeholders. And that's something that I really hold dear, the idea of non-human stakeholders.
That's interesting, because I will, in the end of our discussion and our debate on the themes that we have proposed, I will challenge you with a subject that it's a hot topic here where I live now, is that, you know, we don't have so many ski slopes, but those that we have are heavily populated, and they are around areas heavily populated. And this year, something very strange has happened with the ski slopes in Romania, that they have been populated by people and bears at the same time. So people met bears very often. They came out of the forests and they went on the ski slopes and they were running after the skiers. So there is an open debate today in Romania about what we do with the bears, whether we take them out from the populated areas or we leave them there and offer something to them for them to be happy in their own habitat and without, or we get friendly with them. We are going to have domestic bears in Sinaia, for example. Or what should we do? Because if by following this, nature needs half, we need to apply respectful measures. So what shall I do? What shall we all do in order to move on with this, you know?
I think it's such a good question, and something that where I live in Jackson, Wyoming, and we deal with all the time is this coexistence with nature and wildlife. And the thing about nature needs half, and the thing about this conversation is what we're calling for is this revival of our connection and our understanding with where we fit in all of this. And I don't believe that there's, like, when we start saying like this is how this situation should be handled or this, and we act from a logical place, that furthers that disconnection. So we see ourselves as a part, and we allow, and a lot of that is based often in the egotistical analysis of I need to get mine, or I need to be at the top, or my happiness, my enjoyment of skiing, my whatever comes above. But then once we realize, we reconnect with the world around us, we reconnect with ourselves, we reconnect with nature, we reconnect with these species. I believe that what we are supposed to do begins to emerge. We have those answers within us. I think we have them in us from birth. We just get taught out of them and we forget them. And we begin thinking with our heads and instead of our hearts and our bodies. And so nature needs half is really that encouragement to go down that path and to discover what it could look like to truly live in a coexistence where we aren't at the top of the food chain or at the top of that pyramid. And to realize that what we need is the same thing that nature and non-human species need. And that balance is actually quite easy to admit to and to honor when we're able to also see what we receive back from that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something about the bears?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's a great example. In fact, the question is, why is a bear in the middle of the winter outside?
Yes.
And the answer is climate change. It's a phenomena. Yes, it's a phenomena that is noted everywhere. That bears, that because of the change in temperature that is significant, they don't hibernate as much.
Yeah, why?
And also they don't find enough food before the hibernation, so they are hungry. They come out. So that's one of the things just to think about. But and the other thing that I wanted to say that Crista emphasized is that the solutions emerge, but we may or may not like those solutions. So, if we try to manage out what we already managed wrongly, is going to create even more conundrums. So probably one of the things that would be nice to do is to stop for a little bit, not like we did with the pandemics because we were forced to, but stop being aware and conscious that our stopping can bring more thriving, in fact. But well, we're humans, so we will always also dispute the solutions.
Yeah.
So we just keep on talking. That's what we need to do.
We can use our innovation power to think how we can make them happy and go to sleep during the winter.
So you can continue skiing. Okay.
For everybody to be happy. Yeah, so we are getting we are getting closer to our the end of our discussion. Not before we are going to end our discussion, not before introducing our last section of the discussion, which is recommending your book idea. We will start with Crista, then Alec will continue, and I will end with my recommendation. So Crista?
Sure. Mine, I can grab it here, is called The Dictionary of the Undoing by John Freeman. And John Freeman basically goes through the alphabet, picks one word for every letter of the alphabet, and deconstructs it. And he's basically assembled all of these words that felt really essential to reclaiming our power as literary citizens in order to use words to get across meaning that has been lost, and to realize that we have the power to create change in just the words that we use and the discourse that we engage in. And so he goes from A starts with agitate, Z ends with zygote, and everything in between. And it's been one of the most influential books I've read recently.
Great. I noted it already. I'm gonna look for it. I like the title very much.
Thank you, Crista. I also took note of it. My book is, of course, Politics of Nature by Bruno Latour. Mm-hmm. And see the asparagus there?
Yes.
It's a very interesting book. Bruno Latour is a philosopher and anthropologist, and is at the University of San Diego. And he talked a lot about what he called non-human agency. He inspired me with the non-human stakeholders, but in this Politics of Nature, the subtitle is How to Bring the Sciences into Democracy. It's a very important question, and one of his arguments is that political ecology should drop the idea of nature, because putting forth this idea of nature keeps the separation on, as we were talking. It's a very interesting book. And his first article is Get Out of the Cave. So let's all of us get out of the cave and see how we can innovate to better live. And innovation doesn't mean necessarily new technologies. Innovation is innovation of thinking. Mm-hmm. And thinking innovative. So I think it goes well with Crista's book.
My book is it's also related to nature, and it's also related to a project that I'm involved in. Yeah. So my last recommendations are all related to that project, which is called A Boy's Mom, or Mothers of Boys. And it's called, it's a book that I read a few years ago, but I'm continuing to read. I'm rereading right now. It doesn't have precisely doesn't have a clear connection with climate change, but it has connection with climate, with nature's harmony, and not spoiling that harmony, and also taking care of the future hunters. And it's called Raising Boys. It's written by Stephen B. Dolph, and I think that there are a lot of things to be learned from how we build the future of these young generations that you are talking about, Crista, in supporting harmonious life all together, boys and girls. And we can start with boys, I think, from the perspective.
Because you have boys, I have a girl, so.
Yeah. I have girls as well, but I think that to be a woman and raise boys is more challenging than vice versa, although the vice versa can be challenging as well. So this is about our book recommendation. I think that our public is going to have a lot of things to read, very interesting on and precisely those that are related directly with the theme. Now I want to make a tour of the table, of our virtual table, of our virtual debate, and ask you guys to say in just few words, what do you feel that you've learned today in relation to our discussions and our discussion and our theme? Just two things or two or three things that stick to your mind after this debate. Alec, you can start because
okay. I start, no problem. First of all, that climate change can be experienced in many different ways, and second, that approaching climate change in a sort of super pessimistic way is not really helpful. And third is that we do have the answer, and it's not necessarily technological, but it's human. Excellent.
And Crista?
I would say first that innovation doesn't necessarily need to be a continuation of technology or process, but it could be an internal innovation in the shift of how we think and how we act. And second is that wine can be aged in space. And third is that the idea of leaving this planet for another one seems like a pretty good scapegoat for us not to have to actually handle what we've created here.
And to tackle the real problem, to move away from the real problem. And I will also underline my conclusion is that if nature is happy, we are going to be happy. If nature is upset, we will need to run away from this planet, and it's going to be much more difficult to find happiness that easily. So as long as we've been happy on this planet, we can start being, it's up to us to continue being happy because we know how to do it, and it's our nature here. So if we give half the nature, we are going to take our half. Otherwise, we lose our half as well. So that would be my conclusion. Thank you very much for being with us tonight from your homes and from the piece of land that you are staying on right now in different parts of the world. It was really enjoyable for me, and I hope that for you as well, because I saw you smiling many times and sending good energy in the world. So let's give nature the half that it deserves, or even more.